All right, in this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to set up multiple planes of reference to model from. So in this case, I'm going to be creating a Bell Huey Iroquois helicopter. All right, I got this reference. I took it into Photoshop already and made sure that the side, the top, and bottom all line up left to right. And then I actually took the front view, which was down here in the reference, and I moved it up here and made sure that it lined up with the side view, because that'll make it easier for me to make it line up or for me to set up my reference. I've also made this reference image square to make it easier to place, right? So the proportions are 1:1. Okay. So the important thing to start with, I did look it up. It is 57 feet or 1,737.36 centimeters. So let's just go ahead and make a box here in perspective. And we're just going to, and we'll round this, where it doesn't need to be exact. So I'm going to do 1737. I'm just going to copy that and paste that for all my values and hit create. All right, so this box represents the length. So I can probably make it. It doesn't have to be as tall. All right, and so this box is just going to be kind of a guideline for us as we're going through and setting up our reference. I guess it could be not as wide too. All right, so let's open up the material editor by hitting M. I'm going to drag over a standard material. I'm going to drag my reference in here and then just plug that in. And let's make a plane here. Sorry, I'll make a plane out here in the world. Right click and assign material to selection. I don't need the material anymore. I'm going to close that. And then let's go ahead and let's make sure the length and width are the same value on this plane. Then hit F3. There we go. All right, let's right click on this box, object properties, and say 0.1. We want to make it transparent, not too transparent. There we go. That'll be good. Maybe just slightly darker to make it easier to see through it. Perfect. Okay. So here's this box that's going to represent the length, right? Which means I'm going to take my reference here. I'm going to switch from a left view to a right view. And then take my reference and rotate it. Because when you're looking from the side, right, this would be the right view. And so I'm just going to come down here and enter a z-axis rotation of 90 degrees for my helicopter. All right, let's turn this into default shading. And now I'm just going to bring my reference over. Oops. Let's do this. While I'm moving this around, I'm going to click on the selection lock tool to lock my selection. And now I'm just going to scale my reference so that my reference matches this length, because this box represents how long the helicopter actually is. And so anything you go to build, find out what it's, I'm going to hit G to hide the grid. Find out how large something is so that you can kind of set up your reference like this. All right, I think I got it. There we go. That's close enough. It's right on there. So let's turn the grid back on. I'm going to lower my helicopter because I'm going to want to build it so that it is sitting right on the 0 plane of Z. There we go. All right, and let's just kind of move this back a little bit here in the top view. All right, so we're going to be modeling there. And now let's get a side view in. So I'm going to rotate and clone it as a copy. And I'm just going to go into rotate. And let's turn on our angle snap. Just rotate this 90 degrees. And I know I said a side view, but what I want to do actually is I'm going to move this over in the front, move it back because I want to be able to see the grid. And I just locking my selection here. I want to line it up so that the middle lines up with this darker line right there that represents 0 in the world. And so I want to make sure the helicopter is centered, the reference, because that way I can focus on building one side and use symmetry very easily. All right, so there's the front. So now I have the side. I have the front. Let's go ahead and unlock our selection, grab this reference, the one for the side again, and we're going to clone it one more time as a copy and then rotate it. This will be rotated 90 degrees. Switch to move, and then let's move it over here. I'm going to hit F3 in the top so I can see. I just want to move it over so I can see the top view. And again, I'm going to want to center the reference, right? And if you zoom out, you can see there's that dark black line. So that line right there, I just want to line up my helicopter with that. There we go. Okay, so that's lined up. And so we'll make sure that reference is sitting lower, which it is. Looks like I probably need to move my front view back further so it's not clipping. And then I can always grab this and clone it one more time. I'm going to raise it up and rotate it 180 degrees. I'm going to change this to a bottom view, and let's do standard. Oh, come on. Lighting and shadows. Let's do, boy, that's right click. Let's hide this image. There we go. Now I can see it. All right. And so I'm just going to slide this bottom view over again. If you need to zoom out to see where your zero plane is, there we go. And I wasn't able to see through my other reference. That was the problem there. All right. So I have my 4 primary views all taken care of. All right. And so I could at any point right click on this and we're just going to unhide them all. Grab them all, go over to display and make sure backface color is turned on, turn off show frozen and gray, and then just save what I have. All right. And then a final step is you could potentially come in here, right click and say convert to edit poly, and then go into edge and in under edit geometry, turn on preserve UVs. You grab that edge and then you can raise it up. And what you're going to do then is just isolate your different reference planes. You just want to make sure you're grabbing and moving it along a specific locked axis. Freeze that one. Let's orbit around. We'll grab this one from the top, convert to edit poly, turn on preserve UVs, go to edge, grab that edge. Oops, looks like I still had the same one on. Let's turn that off and freeze it. Top level, freeze my selection. Now I'm going to select this plane and convert it to edit poly. Go into edge mode, turn on preserve UVs, grab this edge and then move it over. So now I'm looking at the top. I'm isolating just the top reference here because we're looking at it from above. I'm very careful to grab just that axes that I need. Right click, top view. Make sure you turn off preserve UVs. You don't want to accidentally leave that on. That can cause you trouble if you gotta move things later. Let's go ahead and we'll do the same thing here for our bottom view for when we're working on the underneath. Convert to edit poly, preserve UVs, edges, and then just move this over. And remember, grabbing that handle to ensure we're only moving it on a specific axis is really key here because otherwise our UVs could get really messed up. Part of the reason I saved before I showed you this. Top level, turn off preserve UVs, right click and free selection. There you go. And you could do that with the backside or with the front view as well. I'm gonna save that because there's something I can actually do using these cross sections that's pretty cool that I may show you in another tutorial, or I may not, to be totally honest. So, all right, that's it. That's setting up reference for multiple planes. Now you can get started and really, you know, at this point, you just need to figure out which axis is going to be the best one to start on, right? If you're going to come over here, with a line, just start roughing it all in. I would maybe do that engine part last. If I just come in here, it's really hard to see anything that I'm doing at this point. So maybe close my spline. I'm going to hit the material editor, click on the material, make my diffuse a completely black color, come into maps and just reduce the diffuse to like 50 or 25. Now I could see my reference a lot better. If I convert to editable spline, grab all these vertex points, make sure they're all corners. Oops. I can start grabbing those corners, those points, make sure they kind of generally roughly line up, and then throw an extrude on it. And if I just come over here, if I'm just focusing on the one side, I just pull this over. Right. Convert that at poly. I can start grabbing those sides. I can keep extruding that out. Turn on F4. Oops. That one side out there. Kind of scale that down a little bit. Extrude it again. Scale it down a little bit. Maybe grab these polys. Put an F50 on so I could grab this side and kind of nudge that to kind of match. Grab some more polys here. Maybe extrude them out. Oops, extrude them out one more time. There we go. And I'm gonna just grow that selection, put an F50 on. I can just grab this corner. Oops. Oh, that's not what I want at all. Let's shrink that and then just scale it. All right. And then, you start comparing your different angles. This is the top. I don't want the top. I'm going to hit T because I want to see that was the bottom. I didn't want to see the bottom. I want to see the top. You will have to go into object properties, hit 0.1 to make your mesh transparent. Make sure you hit F4 so you can see visible faces. And then you're going to just start coming through here and grabbing, the different sides to make sure everything kind of lines up. And you're going to compare your different views as you go. See, I'm just kind of pulling these points over. I guess I'll have to really compare like where I actually have points on this thing. Because clearly a lot of this needs to come back like so. Right, and it looks like yeah. All right, so interestingly enough, it looks like the tail kind of comes over. That's going to make things a little bit interesting when we start trying to use symmetry. But at this point, I think you kind of got the general idea of what's involved. You just kind of take your pieces and parts, start pulling them around. Right. You'll eventually, have to come in here in F4 and then just make sure you're connecting edges together. Like I would probably take this, move this up, grab these points so I could connect them together. And let's just add, it helps a lot if you kind of have matching cross sections that you can work with that kind of line up sort of like this. There we go. Connect that. Let's grab one more row, kind of move it over, and then I got one more over here. Perfect. All right. There we go. Connect them like that. That's kind of the general idea behind how all this process works then, is just kind of going through, grabbing your edges and your verts, moving them around, making them all line up real nice. I'm going to stop there because I'm not going to model an entire helicopter. I think one key thing is I come in here and select this plane here, and I should be able to grab this entire border and make sure it's planar along whichever plane it is. Going to center it at like 0, and then I'm going to slap a symmetry on it. So now I have my left-right symmetry. So at any point, you can always make another box out there in the world. Make sure that's zeroed out, convert that at poly, and attach that to your mesh. So then when you start going in there, you could put your reference on the X-plane and get to working on it. All right. But that's it. That's kind of setting up multiple planes of reference. I even gave you a really complex version there. All right, that's it. Enjoy.